all of those times it was meant for us to lead to this moment. So that's the thing I wanted to show the people too, right? When they see this, they see everything that is a part of the movement. I come from a team mantra. The way I win is making the team win. That's why Runway7 is what it is, because we all move with that team mantra. There's the core executive team of us that make it happen in terms of driving the ship, but it takes the entire team for people to see what they see, and it takes the entire team to win the accolades of top platform in New York City and, one of the best businesses in America. We wear those badges very proudly, because that was the goal. We didn't get in it to just be cute. We're like, no, we're here to be the best.
We're here to win.
That's what we're here to do. Those that see me and know the resume of what I've done, or they know the quality of which I've done things, or they know that, okay, if Rob Lee is messing with that, then I should too. So that's why I'm always looking at it from a team concept. My mentors definitely starts at home. Just like anything, right? With a person, if you want to know about them, you go to where they came from. My parents have definitely been those mentors, not just in the terms of mom and dad, but I've seen them in their own professional capacities in leadership. My mom is a retired RN, so being the head nurse and being the one that has to, lead a team, I've seen her in that element. My dad is also retired, and he was the director of social services for the housing authority of the city that I come from, Rochester, New York. So I've always seen him in the leadership capacity as well, behind the desk, creating things like, he created like the biggest summer program for youth in the city. And it was the only one of its size. So to see him create something, right? To see my mom dealing with literally life. My path allowed me to cross certain people like, who you just met, like Miss Pat, Patricia Chin, the founder and innovator, co-founder of VP Records, the largest reggae label in the world. And to sit and talk with her and just to hear about, the things that she's gone through as a businesswoman, and then a businesswoman not from the US, and then having the descent of, being Jamaican and Chinese. Just even hearing things that she's, endured, hurdles she had to climb, things that she saw worked, things that she saw that didn't work. Just, being able to talk to her and hear those stories, but to get jewels of wisdom from her. One of the things that she has said, as well as other mentors of mine that have been wildly successful, have all said the same thing. I remember Miss Pat would say, never chase the money, just chase integrity, and the money will find you. I had another person I had the, pleasure of being in a room with, Bill Shea of Shea Stadium. They own Shea Stadium, the Shea family, and which is now Citi Field, talking with him, and for him to say, hey man, I like the way you're moving. I like the things that you're doing. We would go to lunch, and, he's a big fan of my music and things like that. So to have intimate moments with him, and he would share his perspective of things. Someone that comes from a family like that could really be out of touch, but he's not. In terms, he's, politically, he's in tune. Culturally, he's in tune. Always hanging in Harlem, but he's not afraid to be of people and around people. And he also said the same thing. He was like, don't ever chase the money. Let the money chase you, by your integrity and how you move. And so to have someone like him, that I've interacted with multiple times, just he and I, just simply having lunch on 14th Street, or him coming by it, where the offices were in Midtown, just him coming in and taking that time out of his day to talk. Also had the pleasure of speaking with, God rest his soul, Harry Belafonte. When I was fortunate enough to have a one-on-one dialogue with him through his right-hand man, Andre Robinson, and for Andre to say, hey man, I was telling, Mr. Belafonte about you and the way that you move and the things that you're doing, and, he wants to meet you. And at the back of my mind, I'm like, damn, Harry Belafonte want to meet me? Okay, let's do it. Having the pleasure of, being in his office, and it was just the three of us. And for him to look at me and say, we need more like you. He said, the way that you move and the things that I've learned about you, we need more like you to continue ushering your generation. He said, with my generation, I felt like one of the things we haven't done was properly teach you guys, the hip hop generation, to take our place. And those are very profound words to hear from someone like him who literally was walking in the streets with Dr. King and people like that and on the forefront of social justice. And for him to look at what I'm doing and number one, make time for me on a one-on-one, right? But also number two, to validate what I'm doing, to hear that from Miss Pat, to hear that from Bill Shea, to hear it from Harry Belafonte and people like that, to say that you're doing it correctly. Oh man, it's validating and it's an honor, even in the realm of fashion, to be in a room with the founders of Fubu. Those guys not only changed, culture, Black culture in terms of fashion, but they changed fashion itself, the culture, to do what they did with the brand and still doing with the brand. So to sit in a room with those kind of people and for them to say, we like what you're doing it right. Those are some of the mentors that I've been around, going all the way back to my parents. Yeah. But man, the secret is just to move, humble. The secret is to move with a purpose and to move intentional too. You got to understand who you are and what effect you do have. It's almost like that great line, right? Like I said, I'm always referring to Marvel and things like that because I'm a huge fan. But with great power comes great responsibility, and that's the truth. The things that I've done, I know that I've done things that most people will not do or have not done. And for me to be put in a position or to have been put in a position to do those things or to make certain achievements, I don't take that for granted. And I understand it's a gift. And the fact that, the way that I'm moving, the integrity that I'm moving with allows me to do certain things that people are like, what? You did what? Or you're a part of this? Those things keep me humble. And that's the real secret to maintaining clarity. Because when you start moving differently, less humble, more prideful, that's when the chaos comes in, and that's when you can get thrown all over the place. But when you're humble, you're able to just look at things with that matrix vision and kind of just see what you want to touch, see what you don't want to touch. And you got to eat right and get rest because I do a lot. I do a lot. It's a blessing all at the end of the day, but I enjoy it. I definitely enjoy it. This is what I do. I get a lot of pleasure out of what I do. Fashion itself, I've always been about it. I want to say just in terms of my personal life, right? Everyone wants to look good or, do what you think looks good on you, right? A lot of fashionable people in my family, again, starting with my parents, that you look at how fashion comes in cycles. So when certain things come back around again, it was like, oh, I can just find this in my dad's closet. Anthony Rosen, man. So that's like I said, is my brother, my partner. He is the brainchild of Runway7, but prior to us doing that, Ant was moving with a brand and someone suggested to him, instead of going to China like everyone else did, they said, hey, why don't you try Peru? It's a guy by the name of Manuel. Shout out to Manuel. And he's like, yo, you should try Peru. And Ant is like, really? And he just kind of thought about it, and for him, certain things made sense. It's geographically closer, speak the language. Prior to that, we were doing branding, for what I call the original video vixens of the world. Melissa Ford, Vita Guerra, Buffy the Body, Ice-T's wife, Coco, Tahiri, Sincerely Ward, those names like that prior to IG. And said, look, got an idea, getting ready to build this factory in Peru. And he laid this whole thing out. And then he's like, I need you to put the entertainment industry down for like six months. Just give me 6 months. And I was like, because I'm doing my thing at this point. And I got things going and moving. And then when I thought about it, and I said, you know what? All right, let's do it. Let's get busy. Because in terms of clothing, everybody in the industry wants to do that anyway at some point, whether it's promotional or actual lifestyle brand. So I said, all right, let's do it. So that was the entry into fashion. It was this apparel factory project in Peru, and the doors there opened 2008. And today it's up to 5 floors from the ground up. Once that took place, then I was like, all right, I got to get back to the industry part. But not just to leave that alone, but more so to add more fuel to the fire. Because if I continue being who I am in the industry, I can continue, just bringing it all together. It's all entertainment at the end of the day. Stayed on that. And then here comes another idea. Let's get into Fashion Week, New York Fashion Week. We should put a brand in and such and such. And then it was like, wait a minute. We're used to doing our own thing and building our own thing anyway. Let's just make an event. Now, none of us have ever done a fashion event or anything like that, but we're good at business. We're quick, fast learners and can look and see what's going on and know the components to make things happen. Ant came up with the idea and boom, Runway7 is born. Everybody came and it went through the roof. And the reason why it did is, because the people liked it, people loved it. And then Forbes magazine covered the first one and said, this is what Fashion Week should look like. And once that happened, it was like, oh, okay, it's on now. And we haven't looked back ever since. For myself, as the director of entertainment for Runway7 Fashion, I want to see the Runway7 experiences be all over the world. And what I mean by the experience is not the fashion show per se. The fashion show, you got to come to us to get that experience. I've already been to a couple places so far where Runway7 is highly received and highly valued. And in seeing that, I said, okay, you know what? That's a perfect confirmation that it's time to bring the Runway7 experience. Because when you come to a show, it's not just a fashion show. It's an experience, the atmosphere. So now at that point, the challenge is making sure that as we grow, we don't lose the sauce. Because you know how you can go to a restaurant and then all of a sudden, now they're on the east side too. Oh, now they're franchised. Oh, they have the sauce in the stores, but it doesn't taste the same. So we're always doing what we can do to not only get better, but make sure we maintain the sauce of Runway7. And we do it well. I think we do an excellent job of doing it because we've gotten to a point now, I think, this was season number 7 for us that we just did. In the beginning, we were running ourselves ragged because you're trying to watch every little thing. But, like I said, just like a recipe, once you got the sauce pretty much down, you can just turn it on to a certain temperature and just walk away and do some other things. So I think that's where we're getting to now. And we're going to get even better at it. What I would tell my younger self, or at the time that I needed to hear it the most in my life, I would say is do you first, and don't feel bad about doing you first. The reason being is because, by nature, like I told you, I move with a team mantra, but sometimes to lead a team, you have to do you first because it allows you to lead the team more effectively, because you'll know the road that everyone else is getting ready to come down, or you'll put yourself in a position to fully just lift everyone up. So for me, I would say, just do you all the way first, and don't apologize for it. Because if you're doing you with the right integrity, everything else will still fall into place. That's one thing I would definitely say I would tell myself. Just do you, man. Don't worry about it. Everything's going to be okay. Ironically enough, this is when I knew I was doing it correctly. When people told me, damn, you're not afraid to say no. That's when I knew I was doing it effectively, because if there's something that's ultimately not going to be done, I will say no. I've never been the person personally to just do what everyone else is doing. So when it came to business decisions, there's a clear-cut plan, and it's like, this is the plan. We're not deviating from it. This is it. And people, no. We're not doing that. We're doing this. The reason why I understood to see that through is because when you're given a vision, when you're given that gift of a vision, it was given to you. It wasn't given to everybody else. So you have to execute the vision first and then let people catch up, because then people will say, oh, that's what you meant. And it's like, yeah, that's exactly what I meant. Now you get it. Because that's definitely happened to me. I get a lot of questions along the way, and people are like, I don't understand I don't get that. And it's like, no, just trust me, it'll work. And then when they see the fruits of it, then it's like, but that's what innovation is. You might be thinking in year 5, in year 10, while the audience or the person you're talking to is in the right now, or they're in year 1 or even 6 months, and they're never going to see what you're trying to say until you do it. It's like that with anything that I've ever done, whether it's songs, whether it's Runway7, whether even amongst Runway7, when we're talking about certain things as a team, and it's like, oh, we should do this. And, well, people get it, but then they get it. Just execute the vision. People will get it. And you'll be surprised how many things in this world that we've either seen or encountered that have gone through the same things. Man, I'm going to create this thing called, was it Facebook? And it's like, what? Man, nobody going to deal with that thing. I referenced my guy's Fubu. Hey, we're going to create this clothing for us, by us. And people are like, yeah, but then look at it now, 6 billion worldwide. All of those things, and watching people have been innovators and what they've done, and to see it come to fruition is because they saw it through. That's one thing I definitely stick to. I would be lying if I didn't say those thoughts would try to creep in, because, and honestly, without getting too spiritual on people, that's the job of the enemy. Your mind is the enemy's playground. God already got your heart by design, so the enemy can't touch that. So what the enemy goes for is the mind, and to trick you and to say, it's not going to work. What if you fail? When you stay centered, when you stay locked in with prayer, you maintain a clarity to receive instruction and just keep going, and understand that there's no such thing as a loss, only a lesson. If you're doing something and you may fall short, it's not that you did it wrong. It's not that you failed. That's just that point of a lesson. Take the lesson, keep going. Oh, another lesson here. Take the lesson, keep going. That's very important to maintain and understand. Like I said, I get it all the time, even to this day. I'm going to create this, or we're going to do this, and that's not going to work. But the more you hear that voice saying that it's not going to work, is the confirmation that it will. It's funny how that works. Yes, the distraction is there by design. It's because the blessing is right there waiting for you. But if you can be distracted enough, you won't see it. You'll walk right past it. Like I said, I would be lying if I didn't say I didn't hear that voice, all the time. But I trust the heart, definitely. With Runway7, I would say, honestly, I wouldn't say there's one in particular, but there have been moments where it was good to see that particular show happen. For all that Miss Pat has done for me, and the team, and the Upstate team, and the Upstate cats, and, allowing us to do our music and bring it through to VP Records, through VPAL Music. A proud moment for me was returning that favor and getting Riddim Driven, the clothing line that she created in memory of her husband, to be featured on the Runway7 stage. That was a culminating moment for me. That meant a lot to say thank you, because she has every right to be like, I'm not doing that, but quite the opposite. It's, she's very embracing and encouraging and inspiring. And, when you deal with someone like her, who's done some fantastic, wonderful things that the world hasn't, felt, hey, if I can just be a little iota to say thank you, I'm going to do the same thing. And that's what I managed to do, by getting the Riddim Driven clothing line on the Runway7 fashion stage for New York City Fashion Week. And people said that was one of the best shows that they've seen. So I was like, okay, yeah, it worked. But I also like watching the brands that I even know nothing about until I see them. And to see the joy that comes on their faces. Those are the very satisfying moments too, because now it's like you're watching them say, you just helped me realize a dream that I never thought would happen. Those are the moments too that I really, really, really cherish. And then we had another show that featured called Actively Black. Their athleisure brand. And they did a show. They actually featured with us twice. They did it once in the presentation of multiple brands. But then once they saw the platform and was like, oh, wait a minute, it's like this. They came back and did their own hour. And it was fantastic. Their show went globally viral on our stage. They had numerous people in the house watching them. Babyface, Allen Iverson came through, who's now, I believe, a partner with them. Affion Crockett, Malik Yoba, Dougie Doug, a couple founders from Fubu. I mean, you name it. Everybody either participated with that show or they were there. Media heavy. And that was a proud moment too, because, you know, when you think about fashion, right? Fashion should be diverse. It started with us. I'm gonna just be real about that. But when you see the way it's put out there, you would think there was no diversity, no representation, no inclusion. So to see a brand like Actively Black, their name is Actively Black. Their whole mantra is we're black and we're proud. That, you know, that's sometimes too black for Fashion Week. Let's just call it what it is. And that's why you haven't seen them prior to that until we came along, because that's what we're about too. Representation. Represent who you are, you know, represent that. And, you know, to see brands from, you know, indigenous people up there, and just that, when I see all of those things, man, that's it always touches me, because I'm like, this is what this was about, to make everybody have a seat at the table. Biggest personal sacrifice I've had to make is my own time. Again, I move with the team mantra. I play basketball. So you know, some days if I got to be the one to score, I got to score. But if I got to play defense, I'm going to play defense. You know, that's just how I move. So with my own time, I've had moments in my life where I sacrifice my time to advance someone else. Not in a complaining way, because that's just how I move. But I also do it that way too, because I know I'm going to get it back. Not necessarily from the person, but from the person that blesses me. So I know I'm going to get it back. But it's been a few times I'm like, I shouldn't have did that. I shouldn't have did that. I shouldn't have gave him that, you know, I shouldn't have made that sacrifice. But that's also too, when I got to go back to, again, to, you know, my spiritual foundation. And I'm just like, you know what? I'm really pissed that I did that. But I know up above is telling me, don't worry about it. I got you. I'll give it back to you twice. And it's never failed. Every time that I felt like that, I got it back twice. So I got to a point now where I'm just like, you know what? I'm cool. I'm cool with it. Whether you decide to, you know, understand what I did for you, if you don't, cool. You know, you got to live with that at the end of the day. I'm going to live with my blessing, you know. My double blessing, exactly. So definitely my time. That's been the biggest sacrifice, because I could be doing other things. You know, just to be quite honest, I could be doing other things with my time. In fact, I get it back double. I don't have a problem with it. I'm at that point now where I just don't have a problem with it, because I know I'm doing it for the right reason, and, you know, and it's judged from the heart. So the fact that I'm moving the right way, I'll get it back. And then that person or people are now like, hey, you know, don't come back now. Yeah, exactly. Don't come back now. Nah, I'm good. That go for everybody. Everybody out there on the diss tracks. No, I'm stuck. But nah, seriously, man. You know, I don't even get that down like that either. I just say, again, I'm not afraid to say no. So once you jump off my ship, you off of it. Period. Hey, stay over there. The fashion industry, you know, there's a lot of stealing that takes place in the business, and sometimes you'll hear it come out. You'll get someone that has a idea, or they'll create something, and if a bigger brand gets a hold of it, they can run with it, and then you gotta try to catch up, get lawyers, et cetera, et cetera. Meanwhile, they already sold 10 million, of your what you created. There's that, but there's also a lot of gatekeeping. There's a lot of that. There's a lot of gatekeeping. And even, like I said, that's what led us to build our own thing. Gatekeeping is something that is historically been in the business of America. You know what I mean? If you just go back to the fundamental foundation of America and how it was founded, it was based off gatekeeping. We're going to build for us, but we're not going to give you guys anything. Yeah, I'm talking black, white. Because that's been indoctrinated into America, it's spilled over into everything else. That's why with Runway7 fashion, that is a badge of honor for us to have not only be at the table, but we kicked in the door and brought everybody with us. Because even now, I see other platforms that kind of got a little bit of Runway7 element to it in terms of presentation. And my thing is, if you're going to, take some of what we do, take the diversity and the representation, take that, because that's needed. That's needed. If you're going to mimic something we do, mimic that. You're never going to be able to create Frankenstein without Dr. Frankenstein. And that's the core team that we have. Just combat that gatekeeping. So in a sense, I would say we're doing it already because of seeing, like I said, other platforms that are now saying, oh, no, we got more models they're not just white, or they're not just a size 2 and a size 0. You're starting to see more of that, reflected in that. I mean, I think there have been other variables out there happening because of that, like social media, because people are able to have their own, page and people supporting that page. And because that person might be, for example, a beautiful plus size model that has over 100,000 people following them. Now it makes those platforms say, we want you because we know your following is going to come. It's just been a joy to see that we're helping to stop this gatekeeping of some parts of the fashion world and who gets on the stage and who doesn't. Well, number one, man, you asking great questions. I've done a lot of interviews, and you are asking very well thought out questions that, are allowing me to go in detail and in depth. Yeah. Yeah, you ask fantastic questions. If there's anything I want people to know, I mean, obviously continue to follow Runway7 Fashion. We're now approaching 1 million people following the brand. Follow everything that's Rob Lee and support everything that Rob Lee is involved in touching, the Upstate Cats, VP Records, VPAL Music, Ramed Studios, like support it all, man, because I'm with great people. Oh, you can find everybody on Instagram too. So let's put that out there. So hit those follow buttons, go to the DMs and don't be afraid to, put yourself out there. If you need a place to record, Ramed Studios here in Queens, New York, Jamaica Ave, the Broadway of Queens. Definitely the Upstate Cast. We coming with a lot of good music. It's the reggae, hip hop, R&B fusion. We got the almighty Schizo, coming out on that, who is I call him, I know he's like the brand director, but I'll call him the face of rhythm driven clothing because, he was on a billboard in Japan. I mean, what more can you say? You know what I'm saying? So just keep supporting everything that we're doing. Like I said, Runway7 Fashion, man, we're a force. We built this intentionally. We coming in, resetting the bar. Since Forbes said this is what Fashion Week should look like, we took that to heart and said, we're going to make that for real. So look everybody up. Don't be afraid to reach out, and it was an honor and a privilege to do this with you finally. But about a year, but I definitely appreciate your patience. And honestly, man, someone that's been in the industry the way that I have, as long as I have, that's going to take you far, being patient. And you the same person that I saw a year ago. And that's important too,
Thank you. I could take that the wrong way, but
no, take that completely right, man, because this industry can change you.
It can.
And
it tries.
It will. And you can meet people, like I said, one month and 6 months later, they somebody different. Yeah. And the fact that you're the same person, that means a lot. Because I've heard people say that to me. They're like, oh man, I haven't seen you in like da-da-da, or you the same person, you're the same way. So I take that as a compliment because that means you're being consistent, constant, and steady and anchored.
Yeah, I try. It's really hard sometimes, but
it is. Some people make you want to whip their ass. I know. I know. But
it's easy to be. It was very easy to be patient with you because you were always very respectful, and that's not something I received. And it's not that they're actively disrespectful,
right?
But they weren't respectful. And even if like they can commit something and then just not say anything at all. But you always actively said, hey, like, sorry, I can't make it. Like, you always made sure to at least communicate when you didn't have to.
Right. I appreciate that, man.
Something I appreciate. And it made it easy to be paid. I'm like, hey, I get it.
Yeah.
Busy man, you got a lot going on.
Yeah.
And I appreciate you taking the time to do this.
Yeah, no, man, it was my honor, man. Like I said, the fact that you stayed consistent with it too, even seeing me in the building, and you was like, hey, you remember me? And I'm like, yeah, I do. Man, I owe you this. I value your platform as well, and I respect it. That just the fact that you feel like I got something important to say and share, that's enough for me. My man.
Thank you.
That's my man right there. Yeah.